What's his last
Are
name?
we on?
He didn't tell us.
I think this thing is not on in general.
All right. It is 7:05, and I'm going to call to order the regular business meeting of the Newmarket School Board. And we're going to begin this meeting as we all do all our meetings with Catherine, our student representative, leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Catherine, if you would.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. We'll begin the evening with public comment. I will open the microphone to anyone if they would like to say anything this evening. Please introduce yourself, if you would.
I'm Amy Rossi. I am a resident of 15 Hillside Lane. I'm also a representative of the Newmarket Teachers Association, and my comment today is more in that role. In looking at the policies that are going in for a second reading this evening, there's policy GCNA, which is supervision of instructional staff. And this policy has been in place since 2008, and I'm not saying right now that there's anything that's tremendously different at this point than there was there. But I wanted to bring to your attention that the evaluation committee, which I know that you are aware that the evaluation committee is happening, has started this year. And I just think it's important for us to note that this needs to come back up for a read once that's done to make sure that they coincide. At this point, from previous documents, and I took a look at the PD plan, which talks about observations, this, there's no difference or issue between the two of them. Just want to make sure that we bring it back up and look at it then. Okay.
Thank you for that suggestion.
Thank you.
Any more public comment? Seeing no one else, we will close public comment. I wanted to say that school board member Elizabeth McKinney is on an approved absence, excused absence this evening, so she's not going to be joining us. And we'll move to our reports. The first report is the student report and the calendar of events. Catherine, if you'd like to do that, that would be great.
So at the junior senior high school, talent night is tomorrow, November 3rd from 7 to 9, and there's a $5 entry. The boys soccer awards night will be Monday, November 6th, 6:30 p.m. at the school, and the girls soccer awards night will be Tuesday, November 7th, 6:30 p.m. at the school. There's a new robotics program being introduced at the school, led by a few of the newer teachers, so they're working on getting student interest, and we'll see where that goes.
Great.
And there's no school Friday, November 10th for Veterans Day observance, which is sweet. For sports, the girls varsity soccer had their semifinals game today against Epping at Laconia High School, and they won. So they will be going on to finals November 5th, 12 p.m. at Laconia High School, which is this Sunday. Yay! Yeah, yay!
Yay team, go Mules.
And football won their last game against Winnisquam 36-0. The next season of sports will be starting Tuesday, November 28th with boys and girls varsity basketball. And for the elementary school, they had a spaghetti dinner fundraiser tonight at 5, which is passed.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Catherine.
I think we have some audience members who may have had some spaghetti. Was it good?
It's good.
Oh, and board members.
That's a great fundraising opportunity, and we thank Mrs. Miller for coordinating those efforts every year. Meredith, moving on to you, to your superintendent's report. We will.
Sure. So Mr. Mazzoni asked me to mention that we were lucky enough to have Emmy nominee Chambers Stevens work with our middle school, high school drama club on October 24th. He is one of Los Angeles' top acting coaches. And has coached actors who have appeared on Nickelodeon, Disney Channel, CBS, NBC, ABC, and the Cartoon Network, plus countless films, theater productions, Broadway shows, commercials, and video games. So,
wow,
great opportunity for those students, and we are grateful for the time that he donated to us and coming to visit.
Excellent.
So, really nice there. Let's see. Oops, I lost my little sheet here. Here we go. we only met a couple of weeks ago. We have a building committee meeting coming up next week. That meeting, as a reminder, will be a joint meeting with the school board where we'll be reviewing kind of the next round of cost estimating. That information has already been posted to the website with part of the agenda, with the agenda for that meeting. No surprises, which is great news. We have our next meeting coming up with abutters on the Wednesday, the 8th of November. And that meeting will be in the library, I believe, at the junior senior high school, beginning at 6. And reminder postcards for that were sent out this week. So we sent original letters a ways back, but we sent reminder postcards this week for folks.
The agenda says 6:30
Oh, okay, then it says 6:30.
here on the calendar,
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Should have kept these on.
Common theme.
No comment. We are
don't dare.
working to submit our application for security pieces for the state infrastructure fund. I know Representative Cahill was at that committee meeting today. We exchanged a couple of email messages. Our intent is to submit not only the planned security upgrade pieces, many of which are included in our building project, but also at this point, until we hear otherwise, we're going to also include some of the security work that was done during the last school year at the schools. We don't really have any specifics from the state regarding what kind of state match they might provide or what sort of local dollars they're expecting to have been invested in these projects, but we are taking advantage of the Homeland Security audit information that we received in the spring of 2016, using that information as the basis for what we're including in our application. So we intend to get that in by the middle of next week, and we hope that we'll hear back from the state on that within the next month or so. Again, many of those costs are already built into the cost for our bond project, which might allow us to look at some things that are currently on the alternate list or reduce what we need to spend out of contingency. So we're hopeful about that. Most of our work behind the scenes here in the last couple of weeks has really been focused around operating budget for fiscal year 19. So the board will see that budget next week for the first time. So we are putting all the pieces together. We did get information that the guaranteed maximum rate for health insurance for us will be 9.5%. So it won't be more than 9.5%. We won't know until actually November 8th what the ultimate rate will be. So we're building in at that guaranteed maximum rate for now, and then we can adjust with any luck downward. See, I had the opportunity last week, I was invited by the Superintendent's Association to participate in some focus groups. One of those was around technology and education, great opportunity. One was around personalizing the learning experience for students. One was around social emotional learning. And again, all really helpful things that we're talking about here in this district. So I, again, appreciate the opportunity to be part of a group of people from around the country, just thinking broadly about what opportunities exist for us and how to use our resources wisely. And we all survived the power outage. I know some folks still are without power, and we know that's difficult on families and homework and daylight and showers and all of those pieces. Again, I appreciate Public Works support. They woke me up bright and early. Monday morning, I was on the phone with Mr. Molesky at about 3 a.m. Just to make sure that we were prepared to take the steps we needed to take to address information for folks that day. I will say that my Blackboard Connect call went out a little bit later than usual because while I was recording my message, I lost power at my own house, so I apologize. It took a little while to get back online to get that fixed. But those are the kind of challenges we face on those days, and so I know we were all in the same boat that day. But again, everyone was safe, and we appreciate the support of the town in getting through that. We are presenting to the planning board, or working with the planning board, on November 14th, just reviewing site plans essentially for the building project on that evening. Diane Hardy, the town planner, has the submission already from our civil engineer, Ty and Bond. And Greg Marles, our facilities director, and I met with Diane a bit today. We're going to have a pre-meeting on the 13th of November just to make sure we have all the information, and if there are any updated concerns from abutters, that we want to make sure all that information has been shared going into that meeting on the 14th. And one other note, I did see lots of student volunteers and parent volunteers out at the Newmarket Loco Marathon on Sunday, and so I will tell you, it's humbling to run in a place where you know people. But I didn't run I only did the half. But it's also great to see a lot of smiling faces and to have kids and adults kind of cheering you on and giving you water because you need it. So, and tonight's spaghetti supper, again, just a great statement about the support this community has for its children, and you can't put a price on that. So, thanks. That's it.
All right, moving on in our agenda, school board committee reports. Does anyone have anything they want to add in that?
I think Meredith just covered it for facilities.
Okay.
Again, meetings Monday at 5, beginning at 5, and the school board will be attending as well, so.
And again, just a reminder, the location for that meeting, because the town hall was double booked, is at the junior senior high school.
Right.
In the library, right?
In the library.
Right.
And for SST, I went on a field trip today with the SST counselors and counselors from the schools to two of the auto dealerships in Exeter who work in conjunction with SST, and was most impressed with both programs at the both of the dealerships. And they are going to try to do those kinds of field trips for other industries around.
Right.
And parents, counselors, school board members are all welcome, and I would be glad to share the dates and times when she announces those, because it was really very interesting. And there was a wonderful career tech education, CTE, program a couple days ago on the exchange, worth looking up on NHPR to listen to that, and Margaret Callahan had provided some input for that one as well.
Excellent.
So well worth it for families to listen to that, just in terms of career options, job options for young people.
That SST is an amazing resource for students
Absolutely.
in a multitude of ways, and I'm grateful that so many of our students take advantage of it. Anything else to add under committee reports? Okay, moving on. We don't have any discussion items tonight. We just have some action items. The first is the approval of the minutes from our October 19th, 2017 public meeting. I seek a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Second?
On a motion from Mr. Kennison and a second from Mr. Zink to approve the minutes of the October 19th meeting, is there any discussion or any amendments? Hearing none, we'll move to the vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes as written, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, none. 4-0, Jen. Thank you for your consistent attendance and excellent minutes. The next thing is the approval of the manifests. Al, do you have those?
I do. I'd like to make a motion to approve the manifest of 11/2/17, payroll manifest in the amount of $255,731.11. Accounts payable manifest in the amount of $561,895.54 for a total, bond payable manifest of $246,518.58 for a total of $1,064,145.23.
Second.
On a motion from Mr. Zink and a second from Mr. Kennison. All those in favor of approval of the manifest as read? Aye. Approved. The next thing speaks to Meredith's point about the support that we get from various parts of our community, and we are very fortunate in that way. And we have a donation in the, go ahead, Meredith, if you'd like.
Well, we have two.
Yeah.
We have a donation in the amount of $500 made by the Debbie Averill Chick Trust Fund. for the girls varsity basketball program. And then we have a donation of $1,000 from the Sons of the American Legion to the Newmarket Junior Senior High School Student Assistance Fund.
Meredith, what is the Student Assistance Fund?
So it's a fund that the school administration, guidance, teachers can request, utilize to provide emergency assistance
Okay.
to students. So it could be, a student doesn't have a jacket for the winter. It could be a student needs some emergency support for dental care
Right.
or an eyeglass prescription,
That's
any
excellent.
number of things.
And how big is the fund?
I can't tell you off the top of my head what the current balance is. We've been fortunate to receive about $1,000 donation, a couple of $1,000s every year or so.
That's excellent.
And then that gets spent down, so I think it's, in the $2,000 range probably in total.
Does it
and-
feel appropriately funded?
I
I know you can always use more, but it.
Yeah, no, I think it does, and I think our administrators and our guidance staff are really good about kind of saying, hey, we may need a hand, and knowing some places that we can reach out to when we find ourselves in that situation. And organizations like the Legion, like the Masons who came to us about a year ago with a donation, are really helpful to us when we run into those situations.
Excellent. Both of these are excellent. I seek a motion to approve the two donations that we received, one in the amount of $500 and the other in $1,000.
So moved.
Second.
On a motion from Ms. Alberg and a motion from Mr. Zink to accept the two generous donations that we have received this evening, is there any discussion? Thank you to those organizations for providing our students with these resources. Anything else? All those in favor of approving and accepting these donations? Aye. Aye. All in favor, excellent. The next item is one that Mr. Zink brought up a few weeks ago, and we had about adding technology and providing technology for the school board members to help us eliminate the amount of paper that we utilize in preparing for meetings and other things. And we had Jason Carey from the technology department of the schools come and give us a presentation last week about potential options for that. Has anyone given any thought about those options? Has anyone investigated any further or had any initial thoughts based upon that presentation?
It's one of those things I feel so ill-equipped to, I would pick the middle choice.
I two things sort of came to me, and if anyone else can jump in when they'd like, but one of the things that I think the timing is good to think about this because we're getting into the budget season and we can look at what our requirements and needs are going to be and where the potential shortfalls are, and then we can make a determination. But also, I think we really globally need to look at if our goal is to get one-to-one for students. I think that needs to be a part of that conversation too, because I would personally see a device in the hands of a student before me necessarily at this particular point. And that's just a personal feeling about it. So I think we need to sort of, and Jason will be here next meeting to talk about one-to-one, correct? So maybe, we can sort of have that conversation in concept of the budget too. But I think that we need to consider that side of things I just feel that way. Any other thoughts about it?
That's a good point.
I would just offer that the option to try out some of those devices still stands, so if we can
Okay.
arrange for that for you, so that you have the
That'd be great.
ability
And
to try
I will
that.
take you up on that, and just.
Yeah, I
my
think that would,
schedule right now
because then
is-
we can see how they are in action, how functional they are in preparing for the meetings, at the meetings, and then, and Meredith had a point that I hadn't thought of before. Maybe we buy a few, maybe we don't buy all 5 at the same time. Maybe we buy a couple pieces and then roll it out a different year or different things. So there's different ways to look at it depending on what the budget looks like and how we need to use the resources appropriately.
And we can still use our own device.
Exactly.
Absolutely,
Which is
we can
what I'm gonna-
share.
What I'm gonna try to do.
Exactly.
It's not gonna
Share things
preclude
digitally.
all the paperwork, but
Yeah, and I think, if all of us sort of got in that mindset as we're trying the new pieces of equipment, that might sort of give us that segue to the reducing these stacks of paper over the course of time. So, why don't we,
Well, it might be interesting to understand as board members what the kids are using too.
what are you guys using,
Hey,
Catherine?
Catherine.
So,
You have a real
for the
interest.
most part, in
And
the
the-
upperclassmen
yeah.
use Chromebooks.
Yep.
I know the ninth graders have access to iPads. You don't really see that with upperclassmen though. So we're mostly using the, I think, 14-inch Chromebooks. And
How do they work for you?
they're very functional.
Uh-huh.
You have everything that you need. I get a lot of my work done on it. I'm able to share assignments with my teachers. They're able to share things with me. I haven't run into any issues, nor have I heard any issues
Mhm.
about it. It's good for just plain work.
And the good thing with the Chromebook is they're pretty inexpensive relatively. They're pretty durable, and given the fact that the majority of stuff that we do is in the Google system, we can utilize it pretty easily. But it's just a matter of getting used to that technology. But I think it's good to understand, Mike, what the students are using.
So if I work with Jason, I'm hearing at least a couple people would like to try out a Chromebook. Does that make sense? So I'll ask him to arrange for that. Mike, for you too?
Sure, yeah,
Okay.
yep.
I'll take one.
Okay. So we'll arrange for that, and then maybe we can give you a couple
Okay.
weeks to sort of try it out.
That'd be great.
Before early December.
That'd be great. All right, thank you. The next thing, we're moving into policy some. We have some first readings, and Meredith, if you would like to take the lead on those, starting with EFAA, School Lunch Program Meal Charges.
Yes. So we have an existing school lunch meal charging procedure that the board developed, I think, in 2014, but there was no sort of policy behind that. And in accordance with federal school lunch guidelines, there really has to be a board-established policy, not just a procedure. So the procedure is in keeping with this policy, and it's in our handbooks. And it says, parents and guardians will be notified via email of a low balance when a student owes $10. A letter, email, phone call will be made to the parent, letting them know the negative balance. That will continue for 3 weeks. Then there's a certified letter, and we notify the principal and the business office. And then the food service, in a 5th week, sort of turns that name over to the business office to pursue collection. And it's rare that we get to that point. And the reason that we notify the principal and the guidance, it's the principal's responsibility to notify the guidance counselor, but we do that deliberately so that if there is a hardship situation, that we can have some dialogue with the family about how potentially to apply for free and reduced lunch, or how we can help them establish a payment plan. We do not withhold meals from students.
Good.
That's very clear. Students get to eat. That's our job. We feed them. If the other part of your procedure is that essentially if it gets to a level that we've got a negative $50 balance or greater, that we kind of reserve the right to pursue collection charges or go to small claims court. Again, I don't think that has needed to happen in recent years, but it could. Most families have been willing to work with us around establishing payment plans, or we've found some other ways to resolve those circumstances. And sometimes it is a matter of people not really knowing how to access the free and reduced lunch applications or whatever that need might be.
And can those be done during the year? Like if a student's situation changes?
Absolutely. Anytime during the year. Those are available, and that is confidential. The only person who
Right.
sees that document is our Director of Food Services. I don't have a master list of who receives free and reduced lunch. She is the keeper of that information. So, if people have privacy concerns, that's her job, is to keep that information confidential. And if anyone needs assistance filling out that application, she can help with that, but certainly our administrators or guidance folks are also very able and willing to do that.
Okay.
So again, the policy itself is federal guidelines. It establishes at the board level that this procedure we have and that we've been using since 2014 has been okayed by the board. ILBAA is high school graduation competencies. I have to flip back now, my packet's out of order. The state changed the definition of competencies. If you look on the back, this policy had been updated in 2012, but you can see all those red line legal references. Those all have changed over the last several years. So this is updating our policy, particularly those definitions, to comply with the changes made at the state level and the ed regulations. And then pupil safety and violence prevention, which includes bullying and cyberbullying. I've seen a typo. Is policy JICK. Minor changes here. Again, these are in keeping with regulation, which includes a lengthy section on appeals. And again, that was change made to the administrative rules since we looked at this policy in April. It for first reads.
And then we have a next set of several policy on second reads. I know there were some consistency, word change, subtle changes to these last time. Is there anything else that anyone
We made
saw? Any changes that need to be made in those?
We made a change to IJOC-R, which was the regulations for volunteers. Those are towards the bottom of page 1. That was just a usage.
Yes.
Consistency of usage. And otherwise, no changes to those since we reviewed them at the last meeting.
If there's no other thoughts, I move that we'll seek a motion to approve these policies that we're doing with the second reading tonight.
So moved.
Second?
On a motion from Ms. Alberg and a second from Mr. Kinnison to approve the policies listed under second reading for tonight on our agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving these policies?
Aye.
Approved. The next thing is a reviewing with changes, with no changes. And I, Meredith, would like, and the board can weigh in on this too. I appreciate what Ms. Rossi said in her comments, and I think that we definitely should take that into consideration, maybe do a subsequent review after the evaluation committee has come up with their recommendations and thoughts.
I already wrote that down.
Perfect. These are, I believe, in their second reading as well.
They are.
Any changes to those? The GC, I take my glasses off, that's not gonna work. GCNA, IHAMC, and IJK. Any thoughts or amendments to those that we had on our first reading last time? If not, I seek a motion to approve the policies as they are with no changes.
So moved.
Second.
On a motion from Mr. Kinnison and a second from Mr. Zink to approve the policies listed on our agenda with no changes. All those in favor? Aye. All right. We had a non-public session before this meeting to talk about 2 personnel matters, and we are going to address those now in our meeting.
Correct. So we had
Superintendent.
2 requests for leave of absence under terms of the collective bargaining agreement with our Teachers Association. So I would ask that the board consider approving those requests.
A motion from Mr. Zink and a second
Second.
from Ms. Alberg to accept the personnel actions for leaves of absence that we discussed in non-public. Any discussion? Hearing none, let's move to the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Approved. As you can see from our calendar and from the back of our agenda, we have quite a few meetings coming up in the next few weeks as we move into budget season, and we consider all the things there. So I just want to review those meetings. The next meeting that we have is a joint meeting, as a school board, is a joint meeting with the building committee, which is, as everyone has said, Monday the 6th at 5 p.m. It is in the library of the junior senior high. Then Tuesday night, we'll have our initial school budget presentation. It is 7 p.m. in the Town Hall Auditorium. Then the next night, on the 8th, there's an abutters meeting. That is at 6:30. Some of the school board members and the building committee members will be there. That is 6:30 on the 8th in the junior senior high cafeteria. The next meeting will be the following Monday, the 13th, a school board budget meeting again at 7 p.m. in the Town Hall Auditorium. And our next business meeting is on the 16th at 7 p.m. We will determine in our budget sessions whether or not we need to have another session around that meeting. And then finally, the budget will be, there'll be a workshop and a budget adoption, a special meeting for budget adoption on November 20th at 7 p.m. And I want to just let you guys know how grateful I am for all the time that you spend working on this board and for the citizens of Newmarket. I appreciate it greatly. And I know that these next few weeks will be a sacrifice, but I appreciate it. So, anything else that anyone has before we adjourn?
I just note that on November 9th, the Newmarket Community Education Partnership
Yes.
will be hosting their Newmarket Eats event. Information about that can be found online at the Newmarket Community Education Partnership website.
It's an excellent
Great event.
evening.
It's a great
It
event.
is.
Great event, and, you know, we've seen throughout this year alone how much the students of the district have benefited, and teachers, from that organization and the grants that they've given, so it's great. Yes?
And we hope that we'll see you Sunday wearing your red and black in Laconia, cheering our girls soccer team
That's,
on in the final.
go Mules, go Mules. All right, if there's nothing else, if I can get the time right, it is 7:36. I seek a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second that.
And a motion for Mr. Zink and a second for Mr. Kennison. A move to adjourn the meeting. A move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned at
I
7:36.
apologize, our meeting was so short tonight.
I know, you must be.
You really made the right